Listen, my people. Come closer. You want to hear about the woman who invited her own childhood friend, the one who single-handedly raised her daughter since she was a 3-month-old baby, all the way to a wedding just to sit her at the back and call her a poor village helper in front of 300 guests? What that bride did in reply will make you drop whatever you are holding. Sit back, relax, and let's go to that glittering wedding hall in Lagos. The hall at Echo Grand Event Center was already glowing under gold lights when Regina pulled Amara aside, gripped her wrist tight, and whispered through her teeth, "Just smile, greet the guests, and sit quietly at the back. Today is not about you. Today, everybody will finally see the difference between us." Amara looked at her old friend's face, painted and powdered, dripping in coral beads that cost more than Amara's shop made in a year, and she said nothing. She only nodded, the way she had learned to nod her whole life whenever Regina spoke to her like that. Because Amara knew something Regina did not know she knew. She knew exactly what Regina was planning to do to her in front of 300 guests, and she had already decided she would not fight it. Not yet, not until it was time. Regina and Amara grew up in the same compound in a small town outside Ibadan, sharing one bucket of bath water, one plate of eba, one dream of leaving poverty behind. They were closer than sisters, the kind of friendship that survives quarrels over hairbrushes and shared secrets under mosquito nets. When Regina got pregnant at 19 for a man who disappeared before the baby's first cry, it was Amara who sat beside her in the hospital. Amara who mopped her forehead with a wet cloth through 6 hours of labor. Amara who named the baby girl Selena because Regina was too weak from labor to even speak. And when Selena was only 3 months old, Regina made a decision that would follow her for the rest of her life. She woke up one Tuesday morning, packed one bag, kissed her sleeping daughter's forehead, and left the compound before sunrise. She left a note for Amara. It read, "I cannot raise this child in this poverty. Please, just for a while, watch her for me. I will come back when I have something to offer her." That a while became 18 years. Amara was 20 years old herself at the time, unmarried, with no money and no plan. But she picked up the crying baby, held her to her chest, and made a decision that would define the rest of her own life too. "I will not let this child suffer for what her mother did," she said to no one in particular in that empty room, and she meant it with her whole spirit. The early years were not easy, my people. Not at all. Amara sold groundnut by the roadside from 6 in the morning, tying Selena to her back with a wrapper that grew thinner and more patched every year. There were nights the baby cried from hunger, and Amara had nothing but garri soaked in water to give her. Nights she herself went to bed on an empty stomach, so the child would not know what hunger truly felt like. Neighbors gossiped behind her back. "Amara, why are you carrying another woman's burden? You will suffer, and she will come back one day, dressed fine, and take the child from you. Watch and see." Amara heard all of it, and still, every morning, she woke up, strapped Selena to her back, and went to sell. It was around this time that Amara met Tunde, a quiet carpenter who worked at the timber shed near the market. He noticed her first, not because of her looks, though she was beautiful, but because of the tenderness in the way she spoke to a child that was not even her own blood. That woman, he told his friend one evening, carries another person's child like her own soul is inside that baby. When Tunde eventually proposed to Amara, he did something that many men in his position would never have done. He looked at baby Selena, barely 2 years old at the time, and said, "If I marry you, I marry both of you. I will not raise one child and treat the other like a visitor in my house." Amara wept that night, not from sadness, but because for the first time since Regina left, she felt that she and the baby were truly not alone in the world. Tunde kept his word. When Nadia was born a year later, he built one small wooden cot and placed it in the middle of the room so that both girls, Selina and Nadia, would sleep close enough to touch each other's hands through the night. He carved 2 identical wooden dolls for their 4th birthday, refusing to let anyone say one doll was better than the other. When school fees became due each term, Tunde would take extra carpentry jobs late into the night, sawing and hammering under kerosene lamplight long after the compound had gone quiet, and Amara would sit beside him, sorting nails into tins, both of them walking side by side so that neither Selina nor Nadia would ever be sent home for unpaid fees. There were times when the money simply was not enough, and Amara would go to 3, 4, 5 different women in her savings group, begging small loans, promising to repay in installments, swallowing her pride again and again, because pride does not pay school fees, only sacrifice does. There was a particular dry season when Selina, only 7 years old at the time, fell seriously ill with malaria, so severe that her small body burned through the night and would not cool, no matter how many times Amara changed the wet cloth on her forehead. The nearest clinic wanted money up front before they would even look at the child, and Amara had none. It was Tunde who took off his own wedding ring, the only piece of gold he owned, and pawned it that same night at a trader's store to raise the money for treatment. When Amara found out weeks later, after Selina had recovered and was running around the compound again, she cried and thanked him. Tunde held her face in both his hands and said the words she would repeat to Selina many years later. A child raised in love becomes blood. There is no difference in my heart between Selina and Nadia, and there will never be. That ring was never redeemed. Tunde simply worked twice as hard afterward and let it go, because to him, a daughter's life was worth far more than gold on a finger. Both girls grew up believing they were true sisters, closer than blood, because to them, in every way that mattered, they were. When Selina was 11 years old and old enough to ask hard questions about the woman in the one faded photograph Amara kept folded inside her Bible, Amara did not hide the truth from her. She sat the small girl down on the veranda one quiet evening and told her gently that Regina was the woman who bore her and that nobody, not even Amara, knew exactly where in Lagos she had disappeared to. Selina's small shoulders shook as she cried, and Amara pulled her close and said the words that would anchor that child for the rest of her life. Whatever happens, whatever you find out, you are still my daughter, and nothing about where you came from will ever change how much I love you. Blood did not raise you, sacrifice raised you, and sacrifice does not change its mind. It was Selina herself that same year who begged Amara to help her look for Regina, because a child's heart wants to know its own beginning, no matter how painful that beginning might be. Amara, out of love and not obligation, agreed. When a neighbor who traveled often for business claimed to have seen a woman matching Regina's description, shopping regularly at a big supermarket on the Lagos mainland, always with a wealthy man beside her, Amara saved for months, sold 2 of her better wrappers, and took Selina on a long, bumpy bus journey to Lagos to find her. They found her right there at the entrance of that big shopping mall, pushing a trolley loaded with groceries beside a big, well-dressed man everybody around could tell was a serious odogu, the kind of wealthy man every young single woman in that Lagos social circle was praying to land. Regina's heart pounded as she called out softly, "Regina, Regina, is that you?" Regina turned, and for one unguarded second, recognition flashed across her face, quick as lightning, there and gone. Then, her eyes dropped to the small girl standing beside Amara, a girl with her own nose, her own eyes, her own way of tilting her head, and something in Regina's face slammed shut like a padlock because she understood immediately what that child standing there could cost her. A grown daughter meant she was not the young, unmarried, unburdened woman she had been presenting herself as for months. A grown daughter meant questions this rich man had never thought to ask about her age, about a husband somewhere, about a past she had carefully hidden from him. And Regina, in that one frightened second, decided her daughter was a price too expensive to pay. "I don't know these people," Regina announced loudly, her voice pitched for the benefit of the man on her arm and anyone else within hearing distance. "Please go away from me, I beg. I don't know you people. I have never seen you before in my life. You want to come here and spoil my market for me, is it?" "Regina," Amara said again, quieter now, her hand tightening protectively on Selina's shoulder. "This is Selina, your daughter. Look at her face."
Is this woman mad?" Regina said, turning to the wealthy man with a laugh that did not reach her eyes, tightening her grip on his arm as though to remind him she belonged there. And these strangers did not. These village people, they will follow anybody claiming one relation or another, hoping to collect money or spoil somebody's good name. "I don't have any daughter following me around Lagos. Please remove them from here before they disgrace me in front of my own self." The man frowned, uncertain, glancing between the two women. But Regina quickly pulled her trolley and his arm along, laughing too loudly, already staring him deeper into the mall, away from the child standing frozen by the entrance. Amara did not raise her voice. Regina turned sharply and walked briskly into the mall, on the rich man's arm, her heels clicking against the tiled floor, without once looking back at the small girl whose face was crumbling by the sliding doors. Amara did not shout. She did not chase after Regina to demand an explanation. She simply knelt down right there on the roadside, ignoring the market noise and the curious stares of passers-by, took off her own wrapper's edge and wiped Selina's tears with it. "Come, my dear," she said softly. "Let us go home. You do not need a mother who is ashamed of you in front of strangers. You already have one who is proud of you every single day, in front of anybody, market woman or senator, it does not matter to her." Selina buried her face in Amara's shoulder and cried the whole bus journey back, and Amara held her the entire way, singing under her breath the same lullaby she had sung when Selina was 3 months and screaming for a mother who had already left. That day stayed buried in both their hearts, unspoken to almost everyone, until it would matter again, many years later, in a very different hall, in front of a very different crowd. Regina, meanwhile, followed her own plan without looking back even once. She built the fabric trade steadily, then aggressively, moving from one modest shop to a chain of them, then into importing directly, then into manufacturing. 15 years of relentless ambition turned into a textile empire that spanned 3 states. By the time Selina turned 18, Regina was a wealthy woman with houses in 2 cities and a driver who opened her car door. And something inside her, watching other successful women parade their grown children at social functions, began to itch. A woman of her standing needed a family story, a legacy, a daughter to show the world. And so, one afternoon, dressed in expensive lace, she returned to the small town outside Ibadan she had not visited in 18 years, walked into Amara's modest compound as though she had never once denied knowing the very people she now came looking for, and announced to the neighbors gathering to stare, "I have come back for my daughter." Selina was in the kitchen when she heard the commotion outside. She stepped out and saw the same woman from that shopping mall years before, older now, gleaming in fresh lace and gold, and Amara, her mother, the only mother she had ever known, standing frozen with a look Selina had never seen on her face before. Fear and something else, guilt maybe, or grief. "Selina," Regina said, walking toward her with open arms as though the two of them had never stood face to face before, as though she had never once called this same girl a stranger to spare herself embarrassment in a crowded market. "My daughter, look at you, so beautiful. I am your real mother." Selina did not move. She simply looked at the woman who was once too ashamed to know her name in front of a customer and let the silence stretch long enough for everyone in the yard to feel its weight. Then she looked at Amara.
Mommy, are you seeing this? That evening, Amara sat Selina down again because there was more to say now than there had been years ago on that roadside. She reminded her of the note, the abandonment, the promise Regina made and never kept, the years of silence, the birthday cards that never came, the school fees Amara and Tunde alone had scraped together term after term while selling groundnut, doing carpentry jobs, pawning a wedding ring, and eventually opening a small provision store with money borrowed and repaid, slowly, painfully, over a decade. Selina cried that night, not because a stranger had suddenly appeared, but because the woman who once denied her at that mall entrance now stood in their yard pretending it had never happened, smiling as though 18 years of absence and one afternoon of public shame could simply be waved away with lace and gold. Regina did not disappear after that first visit. She returned again and again, bringing gifts, clothes, money, trying to buy back 18 years in 18 weeks. She paid for a better school uniform, she bought Selina a phone, she kept saying, "I am your mother and it is time the world knows it." But Selina kept her distance, polite but cold, calling her Regina and never Mommy, a word she reserved only for Amara. Years passed. Amara and Tunde, still working with their hands, somehow found a way to send both girls to university, term after term, scraping together fees through savings groups, small loans from church members, and Tunde's carpentry jobs stretching later and later into the night. Selina studied business administration and grew into a poised young woman, eventually working as an event planner in Lagos, while Nadia studied nursing and qualified as a registered nurse at a teaching hospital. On the day both girls graduated in the same year, wearing borrowed gowns because new ones were too expensive, Tunde stood at the back of the auditorium in his one good suit, weeping openly, and told anyone who would listen, "These are my daughters, both of them. I built nothing in this life except two good women, and that is enough for any man." The two girls remained inseparable, sisters in every way that mattered, and Amara watched with quiet pride as both her daughters, the one she bore and the one she raised, became women of substance, university certificate and all, built from nothing but a groundnut tray, a carpenter's hammer, and unbroken love. Selina was now 26 years old, 8 full years after Regina's dramatic return, when she met Daniel, a quiet, hard-working young engineer, and within a year, he proposed. The wedding date was set, and this was the moment Regina had been waiting for her whole life. She saw it as her chance, finally, to stand in public as the mother of the bride, to erase 26 years of absence and one afternoon of public denial with a single glamorous evening. "Let me sponsor the wedding," Regina told Selina one evening, her voice syrupy sweet. "Give me this one thing. Let me plan it, pay for it, and stand beside you as your mother on your big day. All of Lagos will be there. It is time the world knows the truth, that I am Selina's real mother." Selina hesitated. She looked at Amara, who sat quietly in the corner of the room, hands folded, saying nothing, the same way she had said nothing outside that shopping mall years ago. "Mommy, what do you think?" And Amara, selfless as she had always been, said the words that would set everything in motion. "My daughter, do not deny yourself a mother's love because of my feelings. If Regina wants to be part of your day, let her. I do not need a title to know what we are to each other." The wedding planning began and Regina took over everything. The venue, the caterers, the asoebi, the band, the 7-tier cake. She invited business partners, senators, celebrities, anyone who mattered in Lagos society. And in the middle of all that glamour, she made one decision that revealed exactly who she was underneath the wealth. She decided that Amara, the woman who actually raised her daughter, would not sit at the high table. She would be seated far at the back, near the exit, dressed down deliberately, introduced to curious guests not as the woman who raised Selina, but as, in Regina's exact words, rehearsed and cruel, just a poor village woman who used to help us out. Regina's plan was simple and vicious. She wanted the whole of Lagos society to see Amara small, unimportant, forgettable, while she, Regina, stood glittering beside her daughter as the true and only mother that mattered. She even instructed the MC quietly before the event. If anyone asks about that woman at the back, just say she's an old family helper, nothing more. Do not let her spoil the atmosphere I have paid so much money to create. Amara knew. Of course she knew. Regina was never subtle with her cruelty, and even the caterers whispered about which table the poor woman would be placed at. But Amara said nothing. She wore her best Ankara, ironed twice, and walked into that grand hall with her head high because she had raised a daughter with integrity, and she trusted quietly that integrity does not disappear on a wedding day.
The reception began exactly as Regina scripted it. She sat at the high table beside Selena and Daniel, radiant, receiving compliments, accepting a microphone from the MC to give the traditional mother's speech. She spoke of sacrifice, of a mother's love, of how she had always dreamed of this day since she carried Selena in her womb. And the guests clapped politely, not knowing the full story. Somewhere near the back, close to the exit where the waiters passed with trays, Amara sat quietly with Nadia and Tunde beside her, watching the woman who abandoned her daughter and once denied even knowing her take credit for a life she never lived. Nadia, furious, leaned over and whispered, "Mommy, how can you sit here and let her lie like this?" Tunde placed a steadying hand over her wife's folded ones. Amara only patted her daughter's hand in return. "Let her talk, my dear. Today is Selena's day, not mine." But Selena, sitting beside her biological mother in her white gown, glowing under the reception lights, had not forgotten anything. She had watched, all through the planning, every small cruelty Regina inflicted on Amara, the seating arrangement, the instructions to the MC, the deliberate exclusion from photographs, the dismissive introductions to guests. Selena said nothing during the planning because she wanted to see just how far Regina would go. And now, sitting at the high table, listening to Regina's rehearsed speech about sacrifice and dreams, something inside Selena finally closed like a door. When the MC prepared to move to the next segment of the reception, the cutting of the cake, Selena stood up suddenly, gently but firmly took the microphone from the MC's hand, and the whole hall fell into a confused hush. "Before we cut the cake," Selena said, her voice steady despite the tremble underneath it, "there is something I need to say, something I have needed to say since the day I learned the truth about where I came from." Regina's smile flickered just slightly, but she kept it in place, assuming her daughter wanted to thank her publicly at last. "Today, everyone in this hall has heard about the woman who carried me in her womb," Selena continued, looking directly at Regina. "And that is true, she did. But carrying a child for 9 months does not make you a mother. Staying does. Sacrificing does. Showing up every single day for 26 years, even when it costs you everything, that is what makes you a mother." The hall grew silent enough to hear the ice shifting in the drinks glasses. "When I was 3 months old, this woman," Selena gestured, not unkindly but firmly toward Regina, "left me with a note and disappeared for 18 years chasing a better life. I do not blame her for wanting more, but I will not stand here today and let this hall celebrate her as though she is the reason I am standing in this gown. And it is not even the 18 years of silence that hurt the most. It is the day I stood in front of her at the entrance of a shopping mall, holding the hand of the only mother who ever fed me, and she looked me in my face and told the rich man on her arm that she did not know me.
She called me a threat to spoil her market with him, her own daughter standing right there, begging to be seen. I was 11 years old, and my own mother looked at me and saw only a woman who could cost her a husband. A gasp moved through the hall like wind through dry leaves. Regina's face had gone completely still, the practiced elegance cracking at the edges. The woman who is the reason I am alive today, the reason I finished school, the reason I know how to love, how to work hard, how to forgive, is sitting at the back of this hall, near the exit, in a chair Regina chose for her deliberately because Regina wanted this whole city to forget her name, the same way she once wanted a whole market to forget my face. Every head in the hall turned, searching the back tables until eyes landed on Amara, sitting quietly in her twice-ironed Ankara, her hand pressed to her mouth in shock, Tunde's arm already around her shoulders. Selina walked in her white gown and heavy beads past the high table, past her biological mother frozen in her seat, down the aisle between the round tables until she reached the back of the hall. And there, in front of 300 guests, senators, business partners, photographers with cameras already flashing, Selina knelt down on the marble floor in her wedding gown before Amara. "You sold granite on the road so I could eat. Papa Tunde pawned his wedding ring so I could survive malaria. You both carried me on your backs and in your hearts when my own mother was busy building a shop and pretending she had never seen my face. From the day I was 3 months old until this very morning, you never once made me feel like I was not truly yours. You are the mother I never had to search for because you never left, even when I dragged you across Lagos looking for someone who had already thrown me away. You are the mother I choose today in front of everyone." The hall erupted, not in laughter as Regina had planned, but in gasps, then applause, then for many of the older women present who understood exactly what real sacrifice looked like, quiet tears. Nadia was sobbing openly, holding her mother's shoulders as Amara, overwhelmed, could not speak, only nodded and wept as her daughter, the daughter she had raised with nothing but love and granite money, knelt before her in front of all of Lagos.
Regina sat frozen at the high table, the microphone she no longer held. The guests she had invited to witness her glory, now witnessing her exposure instead. Business partners exchanged uncomfortable glances. A senator's wife was heard murmuring to her husband, "So all that speech was a lie? She denied her own child in the market?" Someone near the drinks table said, loud enough to carry, "Imagine, she wanted to embarrass the woman who actually did the work after doing far worse to the child herself." Whispers turned into open murmurs of disapproval, and within minutes, the same crowd Regina had gathered to admire her turned their backs on her, quite literally, drifting toward the back of the hall to greet Amara and Tunde instead, to shake their hands, to tell them what a remarkable thing they had done. Regina tried, weakly, to salvage the moment. She stood up, attempted a shaky smile, and said into a second microphone someone handed her, "Well, of course, Amara helped raise her. We all know that. And that market incident was a long time ago. People misunderstand things. But..." "Sit down, Regina," Selina said quietly, still kneeling beside Amara, not even looking back. "You have said enough. And you have denied me enough for one lifetime." Daniel, the groom, who had watched the entire scene unfold from the high table, walked down himself, knelt beside his new wife, and shook Amara and Tunde's hands with both of his own. "Mommy, Papa, thank you for giving me the woman I married." By the time the cake was finally cut, the sitting no longer mattered. Guests had rearranged themselves around Amara's table without shame, congratulating her, asking her questions, treating her exactly as what she was, the true mother of the bride. Regina sat mostly alone for the remainder of the reception, her carefully built image of grace and sacrifice dissolved in front of the very people she had hoped would admire her. Later that night, after the guests had gone and the hall stood empty except for staff clearing tables, Regina found Amara outside near the parking lot, removing her gele slowly, tired but at peace. "You planned this," Regina accused, her voice shaking. "You told Selena to embarrass me. You told her to bring up that market thing." Amara shook her head gently. "Regina, I never said one word to Selena about the sitting, about your instructions to the MC, about any of it. And I certainly did not tell her to remember what you said to her in that market, because a child does not forget being called a threat by her own mother. I told you that day, and I will tell you now, I never wanted your title. I only wanted to raise that child well. Whatever happened tonight, Selena did on her own, because a mother's love cannot be hidden forever, even when someone tries very hard to bury it or deny it in front of strangers." Regina had no answer. For the first time since the day she walked away, wealth could not fix what her own choices had broken.
Titles do not make a mother. Sacrifice does, Amara told her. Thank you for watching till the end of the story. Let's have your opinion in the comment section. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye!